I thought it didn't start streaming for some reason.
Saying it's live on mine. It's saying it's been live for 17 seconds.
Oh, cool. I just clicked go live now. Hey guys, we're just gonna start at 2:04. We usually start at 2:04 whenever. Just I don't know why. It's just one of my things for some reason. Yeah. If you have any questions already that you have to ask, we'll do a Q&A at the end. You can submit any questions you have on the questions tab, and then you can actually just say hello in the chat if you want. The webinar will start in around 3 to 4 minutes time, so we can let more people come in as well. I see loads of people joining in already, just to make sure everyone's on time, basically.
I see quite a few people signing in already.
Yeah. Let me just... Start in roughly 3 minutes time, so more people can come in. We allow everyone to just come in quickly. This webinar will be recorded and will be sent out to everyone who registered, so you can on-demand stream it as well. So if at the end, like, you don't have any time or you have to like come off quickly, you'll be able still to look back at it, basically. Just gonna start in 1 minute. Very cool. Let's start this off. So I'll give you a quick intro about Wishy and about Ben as well, who's the speaker for today. If you have any questions as well, just chip in. at the question tab. I already have quite a few sent out to me beforehand. I'll quickly just intro everything. So I wanted to intro Wishy. I'm Hiba from Wishy, head of community and co-founder. Wishy is a marketplace and community to book freelancers in film, music, design, fashion for your creative projects. So basically, we're rolling out a free website that's coming up as well. We currently have an app, iOS app, to book on-demand talents or to create your freelancer project portfolio and projects. On the website, you'll be able to use your own personalized link as a freelancer and share it across any media channels. So basically, anyone in the UK can book you on demand through that link and your services as well. So you can see how the profile might look, and you can manage and post your wishes or your offers, project listings as well. Uh, as a basically someone who's hiring, you can choose the right creators for your project, see the profiles, shortlist them, chat with the creators about your listings and projects. So I'm quickly going to give you a brief intro about Ben, who's our presenter for today. Um, Ben is aka Temple, is a producer, music producer based in London, UK, and has been building WordPress websites for over 11 years, helping over 5,000 people in the process, including Universal Music Group, Cambridge University Press, Toys R Us, and many more. His approach is to lift the hood of the website development and show his clients how to take control of their websites without having to rely on a website developer through his courses at WordPress Nostris. He also makes soulful hip hop, R&B, trap, dance, Afrobeats, and pop music. Clients include Nike, Airbnb, Native Instruments, Power Studios, and University of Arts London. His tracks have been featured by BBC, including Reprezent Radio. His latest work includes collabs with UK rapper legend Tommy Evans, rising poet Ovyuki, sorry, I can't pronounce it, Ovyuki, and many other upcoming artists. He also hosts a regular hip hop podcast, Break Yourself, on Keakie Music. Find out more about Temple. Uh, as you can see, there's quite a few of his social medias and websites and Spotify channels. You can follow him and check it and connect him on Instagram as well. Quickly, what we'll go through today from this master class, basically, we'll get an intro on WordPress and how to install and get set up, learn what tools you can use to help you build your WordPress website, and learn how to drive traffic from your Google to your website as well. So I'll hand over to Ben now, who's gonna give you maybe a bit better intro as well about himself, and start this off basically.
All right, thank you, Hubert. That was really good intro, actually. And you pretty much covered everything there. Like Hubert said, I've been building WordPress sites for about 11 years now and helped around 5,000 people in that time. Yeah, including like all the clients that he said there. So University Arts of London, UCL, Westminster, Cambridge, Universal Music Group, Toys R Us. And then I'm also a music producer as well. And I've been doing that actually even longer, for around 18 years. And I've been featured by BBC introducing Nike, Native Instruments, all sorts of people as well, and working with a lot of different artists there. So I think my worlds have started to merge together as well. And a lot of the artists I work with and the groups I'm in, they're always asking me about how I managed to put a nice website together and how they can brand themselves probably a bit more professionally. It's not just with musical artists. I think that's also with probably anyone that's doing a creative project. So whether you're a graphic designer, a videographer, anything like that, I think it's pretty important these days to brand yourself and show off your work in a really professional manner. Bigger brands always want to come to you that way, and when they see you in that manner, I think that just always helps you as a creative too. So, as Hubert said, I'm going to try to lift the hood a little bit of website development. I know it can be a kind of a scary world out there and very confusing. And if you're trying to do it all yourself, it can be a long journey unless you have someone either doing it for you, which can cost you a lot of money, or if you're willing to take the time, watching YouTube videos can be just quite long and confusing too. So thank you for joining me today, and hopefully I'll give you some good tips here on how to build your own website. So I think without further ado, what I'll start to do actually is share my screen, and I'll show you some things that I think are useful in building a website. And I'll, after probably about 30 or 40 minutes, I'll switch it over to answering a lot of your questions, which I know there's already been a lot come in already. But yeah, definitely drop some more questions into the comments or send them to Hubert, and we can go through as many as possible in that time. So I'll share my screen now, and I'll start to show you some of the things that I would go through in starting a website yourself. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen now. Hubert, can you see my screen?
No, I can't.
If I just do this. Can you see it now?
Nope. Are you sure you click in share your screen?
Yeah.
And, are you choosing a tab or anything else?
I'm choosing both, and then when I click over it, it's saying stop sharing your screen.
Interesting.
Ironically, we're getting technical issues now. All right. Well, if we can't share my screen, I guess I'll just talk anyway. And I've got a guide I can send you guys afterwards as well. Is that okay if I do it that way, Hubert?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, but I'm confused at why didn't share your screen for some. Did you choose your entire screen or did you choose Chrome tab?
Tried both. All right, let's just try an individual Chrome tab to start with then. This did work yesterday. All right, how about now?
Yeah, now it works.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, if I just do an individual tab at a time, I think that's the only way I can do it. All right, so first off, what you need to do when you're going to build a website is to choose a domain name and to choose a hosting package. If I explain what that means, a domain name is basically what your website would be called. So if it was Wisyu, they've probably gone with wisyu.io or wisyu.app or .com or .co.uk. So you need to choose a domain name for your business or for your website. So I've got several for different websites I'm doing. My music one is called musicproducerlondon.com. My WordPress one is called wordpressnostress.co.uk. I have a courses one and I have various different ones. So it's a bit like having a phone number for your telephone. It's not going to ring unless there's a number connected to it or address for where you live. So the first place you can go and do that, you can go and do that in many different places. There's somewhere called GoDaddy you could do it. There's somewhere called TSO Host. There's 123reg. There's endless places, but in the guide I send later on, you'll be able to see some various places as well. My favorite place to go I found right now is this place called TSO Host. After doing a lot of different research over the years, I found having a UK-based hosting company, which is where I'm based in London, tends to be easiest for me to get hold of the people there. Tends to be the right hours in terms of support, even though it is 24-hour support as well. They have chat here as well as being able to call them on the phone, and they tend to be a bit less technical than certain other companies, but there's plenty of different ones out there. Probably the most popular right now, I'd say, is GoDaddy. But having said that, I have experienced quite a number of technical challenges with them, and I believe more recently they've grown quite big. And what they tend to do with quite a few of my clients is when they want support, they're charging them more for additional support. So if you want an insider's view, TSO Host is quite a good one to start with, and it's quite cheap. So you'd want to probably start off with buying a domain name there, which if it's a UK, I think it's around £6 or £7 a year. If it's a .com, it's around £10 or £11 a year. There's also Google domains and stuff as well. So there's plenty of different places. But yeah, you can start off by going somewhere like this and registering a domain name. So let's say you were looking for something like Wishy, searched inside their bar there. They're then going to give you the options that are available. So probably going to show me that wishy.com is already, .co.uk has already been registered. So that's probably a good thing. But there is a .uk or something like that available. So whatever it is that you're going to choose, whether it's londondesigner.com, whether it's maryscakes.co.uk, you'll be able to basically search through this thing and they'll give you suggestions on the ones that are available as well. And then once you've bought a domain name, what you then need to attach is something called hosting into it. So hosting is more like where, it's like if you have a car, is where that car is then going to be parked. So there are a couple of charges to building a website, but generally it can be quite cheap. You pretty much just need to pay for the domain name and the hosting. You might need to buy something called an Ssl certificate, which you can also buy here. Without getting too technical and too deep into it too quickly, it's what puts the padlock up into your website address up here and makes the connection secure. And it's what basically puts the little HTTPS part into your website here. So by default, it would always start with an HTTP. So like, yeah, again, without getting too technical, if you don't buy what's called an Ssl certificate, which you just buy at your hosting company, and you can get free ones as well, by the way. If you don't have it, you can basically just block traffic, and sometimes you get a message on your browser saying that this website is insecure. What that means is the person hasn't bought an Ssl certificate for their website. So just to make it easy for you guys, you can buy all three of those things inside somewhere like TSO Host. Once you've chosen your domain name though, what you can then do is go off and buy, probably WordPress hosting is probably the easiest thing to do, because it allows you to do something called one-click install on your hosting. It would give you access to something called cPanel as well, which is the standard for self-hosted websites. And it's pretty cheap to buy WordPress hosting from TSO Host. It's £3.99 a month plus VAT. So it's not going to cost you probably much more than around £50 a year to do that. And inside here as well, and I'm not trying to sell you this company particularly. Like I said, there are plenty of different ones. I'll give you options on the guide I'll send out. But if you just bought one website per year, I think it's £3.99 a month. But you can see for not much more money here, you could have 5 websites through their deluxe package, which is £5.99. So often what I find with clients is that once they've built one website and they've started to work it out a little bit with WordPress, they then have ideas for secondary and tertiary businesses as well. So it may be a good idea to just look at perhaps starting with the economy and then upgrading to deluxe. You'll find a similar pricing over at GoDaddy as well. I think if I just try to share this tab now as well, I think I just have to switch my tab. I'll be able to show you the GoDaddy hosting instead. Yeah, you should be able to see GoDaddy now. So yeah, you see it's what you got to watch out for in some of the hosting companies as well is that they'll give you a very, very good introductory price, and then you got to see what their price would be in after, say, month 1 or after year 1. So just check through a few different ones before you commit. Moving between them isn't too difficult, but it's probably best to just have a look through the different companies that you want in the first place. But with all of these different hosting companies, you can basically do the same thing. You can buy the domain name, the Ssl certificate, and install WordPress just through what's called a one-click installation. You can get more technical if you want, and you can go off to WordPress and download their software, and then you can upload it yourself. You can even download it locally onto your computer with some software called XAMPP with an X and 2 Ps. But that's for the more technically minded person. So I think this is meant to be a course for an introduction into WordPress as well. So we won't go into something like that today. But I hope that kind of just helps initially with those 2 options. And again, I'm going to send you this out in your guide. There is a third option as well, which I'll show you in a second. But it's not my favorite option. There is something called WordPress.com, which is often where I find my clients start off initially, but they don't realize that there's 2 versions of WordPress. What we just talked about is using the standalone software that you download from somewhere called WordPress.org, and that allows you to build any type of website you like. So if you want to just start simply and just have a brochure website, which is just showing off the services and things you do. To add a blog into it, that can work as well. If you want to add a shop through something called WooCommerce that we'll talk about, that would also work. But if you want to just make it really, really simple for yourself, what you can do is just go to somewhere called WordPress.com. It's where people tend to start with just the blogging part of WordPress. But as I say, the 2 versions of it are a little bit different. So if you do start with WordPress.com, the back end of the system that I'll show you in a minute, it's a lot more limited, and you hit the ceiling, as I say, much quicker with it. So I would say WordPress.com is more comparable to something like Squarespace or Wix, which is often a question I'll get as well, is what's the difference between those platforms? I think the difference is that WordPress.com, Wix, Squarespace, all of those, it's a little bit easier to get started on, but if you want to start growing your website over time, you may end up hitting the ceiling, as I say, and you'll end up having to pay them more for the little plugins and the options. And even with Squarespace, I think there's a limit just initially of the amount of pages that you can build. And then the more pages you want to add in, you tend to have to pay a subscription and higher and add in charges for everything you want. So again, without getting too complicated, that's why I think WordPress.com is the choice of more than 30% of websites out there. I think it's 35% of websites in the world are built with WordPress.org. So I hope that kind of just initially explains the difference between the different platforms and where to get hosting and all that kind of stuff as well. So I'm sure you guys will have more questions on that. But yeah, there's definitely a difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. Okay, so I'll stop sharing that one now, and I'll come back over to the screen for a second. And now what I'm going to do is going to show you inside a couple of the websites that I've built recently. I'll just show you an artist called Pavan. He's now a solo artist, but he's from a group called Foreign Beggars, which are quite a famous UK hip hop and grime band. So he's an artist that came to me to initially through music as a music producer, but he asked me to build a website for him. And this is quite heavily based around the imagery that he's taken, which is mostly in places in India. And you can see the reason I'm going to show you a couple of different websites here is I'm going to show you that the next part that I get onto is is choosing something called a theme. So before we dive into that, I just want to tell you that all of the websites I built are basically built upon the same theme and the same software, because it's very, very flexible to build any type of website with the same theme once I reveal some of my secrets to you about what I use, basically. So yeah, this is Pavan's website. It's what's called a responsive website. So when you move it across, and you'll see now we're into kind of like the mobile view, it kind of responds, and it will interact very nicely on different devices. He's kept it quite simple and image heavy, but you can see he's got a simple front page. He's got a news page. So if we go onto that, you'll see that he's got basically a blog that'll come up here. It will show off all of the different articles that he's been doing recently, things with Rolling Stone and The Independent, the new singles he's got out, something with Red Bull and Mix Mag. So if you're into your imagery and stuff, this theme that I'm going to show you in a minute will handle that really nicely and put it together in quite a slick way. He's then got a shop inside here that will show off his latest releases. And the shop is not built in different. It's not built in a different platform. It's all built within the same website. So I often get that question from people. They'll ask me, so where do we build the shop? Do we go off to Shopify or to one of those other websites to use that? But you don't need to with WordPress. You can kind of you can keep building it. I often describe it like a box of Lego that you can start off by building your Lego fire truck. There's a simple part here, and if you want to take off some of the blocks and add extra blocks in and build it into something completely different, you can just keep rebuilding it and keep rebuilding it. Some of my most successful clients now have had the same core website for over 10 years, and they've kept redesigning over the top of it, which means they don't have to start from scratch every single time. So this website's been going actually just for a few months, but yeah, like I said, I've had other clients using the same theme that is built with this for probably around 10 years now. So the theme itself that I'll get further into, that can handle any look and feel. It doesn't have to be an image heavy site. It could be a very business type site, and I'll show you a few other ones as well that it does. It integrates with all of your video stuff, whether you want to be putting audio players through here, like a shop, like I said, a blog, any of that stuff is doable. He's even got like a register and login section to this that hooks up to his Mailchimp account, which is, he's kind of got two areas to this. It starts to get a little bit complicated, but you can see he's basically built a VIP access area that we built a form that allows people to, he's got a community part of this website too. So we kind of went through the fields that he needed to gain information from people, whether they get early access to his music videos, arts and tickets, his emergency well builds thing, his street team. They have to sign up and they have to make a password. But basically that then opens up another part of the website. So there's secret products inside there that you can only see if you're signed up to his VIP access part. But that also hooks up, like I said, to his Mailchimp list, which we may have time to talk about in the questions as well. So Mailchimp, if you don't know about something like that as well, that's a great way to build your list, your email list. It's all opt-in and GDPR friendly, and you can have 2,000 subscribers on Mailchimp for free. And one of the beauties, I think, of WordPress as well is that it integrates with all of these other programs and platforms really, really nicely. So it integrates very nicely with YouTube, with SoundCloud, with Spotify, with Mailchimp. Like I said, you can sell affiliate products through the shop as well. So I have clients that have a huge shop where it looks like a shop, but if you actually try to buy something, it actually takes you off to Amazon, for example, and they earn an affiliate commission through that. So there's there's almost nothing you can't really do. I have another client that does a lottery system. So if you go to the airport and you see one of those fancy cars that's parked up, and they say buy a £5 lottery ticket. I have another client I just very recently built a system very similar to that, where you go onto his website and you buy a lottery ticket to either win cash, to win an iPad, an iPhone, a car, a BMW. I might show you that in a bit, but I'm trying to say that it's very, very flexible WordPress, and you can kind of do anything with it. Yeah, so I'll stop sharing that particular one, and then I might just show you another one in a second. Yeah, I'll just try to show you this one. I think the video is going to lag a little bit, but if you go on to, this is another artist called Ovyuki that Hubert mentioned at the start. She's a poet and a photographer, and she does all sorts of services as well, like voiceovers, voice tags, things like that. So it is lagging a little bit on this particular internet connection, I think. But if you go onto a faster connection, and you'll see that it's got a very slick video background. So again, this is built in exactly the same theme that I'm about to reveal to you, but the look and feel can be a little bit different. The layout is different in the menu bar and things like that as well. So what I'm trying to show you is that you could even have the menu running down the left-hand side. You could have it down the right-hand side. You could have no menu at all. It can handle different looks and feels. So it can be very, very flexible. So I think the point I'm trying to hammer home is that it can be confusing when you get to that part, is what is a theme? A theme is just basically the overall look and feel of your website. You can go off and get ones that don't cost you any money at all, and there are some quite good ones, but there can be a huge difference between the ones that are free, for example, can get you stuck quite quickly on terms of changing the design and the layouts of things as well. And if you just invested a small amount of money in a theme, I believe it's around 60 or 70 bucks. You can then use that theme, even if you, like I said, decided to buy 5 websites through that hosting package I mentioned at the beginning. You could use the same theme and the same page builder, which, without going too far into what I'm about to talk about, is a nice way for you to build different layouts in here. So if I try to go to, hopefully you'll be able to see this, if you try to go to like a video, that's a similar one to Pav's, but if you go off to, let's say you go off to her photography gallery, she's got different galleries here, and you could go off to see, okay, yeah, she's sort of showing the different galleries she got here. She's got a COVID-19 one, which is pretty cool. And this is part of a project, a music project I did with her recently. And if it loads up quickly enough, I tried to show you the gallery here. Just load, yeah, there you go. You see, you can see the different galleries that she can show off her photography through. And then if you clicked on one of these, you can then like go in and see the whole gallery like this, like you would on Facebook. There's something called a lightbox that allows you to see. This is the album cover she used here as well. So this is all to do with the COVID stuff, and we walked around and we took loads of photos together of what was going on, people masked up and stuff too. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And again, my point is that you can use some of the theme I'm about to reveal to you to just build all sorts of different looks and feels with different websites, and it can handle all of the different aspects you probably guys are going to ask me about. Can it do a shop? Can it do a blog? Can it do all of this stuff? Yeah, WordPress can do it all, like I said. So it's why it is probably the most popular website builder. You think of how many websites are out there on the web. I can't remember. It's an unbelievable number. It's in the billions. 35% of them are built on WordPress.org. So let's just go to the next stage. What I'm going to do next is show you inside the back end of WordPress for a second. So if I go to another Chrome tab, I can see wait a second. Yeah, I'm going to what's called the dashboard. Right. So if you've ever seen WordPress before, what you're probably used to seeing is once you've logged in, you see something called the dashboard inside here. So this is how you manage your website. It's what's called a CMS, or a content management system. Yeah, there's others. Like I say, there's Wix. There's I think you can even build free websites through Mailchimp and through Google and through 123reg. Just warn you before you use any of the free platforms. What tends to happen with a lot of my clients, they come to me saying, I've used one of these free builders that was very easy to use at the beginning, but it's yeah, like I say, I'm hitting the ceiling very quickly, and I can't get all the design elements very easily. So I think, again, that's probably why WordPress is probably just the builder of choice here. So again, this is what you see when you first come onto a dashboard, and you see what's called the admin bar at the top, which allows you to log in, log out, go off to the site, see various things up here. But you've also got the admin menu down the left-hand side. This is really where you're going to manage your website. And there, like I said, there is the WordPress.com version of this too. But if you see down the side of WordPress.com, it does look a little bit different to this. It looks a lot more simple. And I believe it just becomes a bit harder kind of to add all of those different sections into this. So the pros secret is that they use WordPress.org. Okay. You can, by the way, start off on WordPress.com, and you can export all of your content and your pages and your blogs. So if you've done that, then it's not particularly difficult to export all of your content and then push it into a WordPress.org site. So don't panic if you've done that, or if you just want to start by dipping your toe in the water by starting a WordPress.com site and seeing that. But I think I would describe it as the baby version of WordPress.org. Okay, so let's go and have a look at a couple of useful parts of WordPress itself and what you can do with it. So if I start off from the beginning, probably the first place to start with a site is that you want to start with a theme, as I was trying to say, by showing you some of those websites. So if you go into appearance themes, you can see I've got a theme called Salient in here. I've got two because this is an older version. I'm meant to delete this, but I will do in a bit. But what you can also do is you can go into the add new part here. And this is a theme I'll go off and show you in a minute. So don't worry. I will reveal where you can get it and how much it is and all that kind of thing as well. But if you just want to check out the themes that you don't have to pay for, you can go up to the add new part, and there's what's called the library of themes that you can directly install inside WordPress. You can do a similar thing with Wix and things like that too, I think. So what you may say is that I'm a graphic designer, or I'm a doctor, or a dentist, or I sell something on Etsy. I want to put this through here. So yeah, maybe you might want to do something like that. You see, okay, so let's say you're a personal trainer. What I tend to find my clients do without talking to me first is that they tend to think that they want to choose a theme that is based upon the industry that they're in. It's not necessarily a bad thing to do, but I tend to find that gets you into trouble with the design quite quickly, because what you tend to do is you tend to choose a theme that you think is going to be suitable for your service, and you think is going to be easy to just replace the pictures and all of that kind of stuff inside there as well. But what you end up doing is it can be frustrating trying to put your website into something like this that will basically just it will force you into trying to replicate a design that they've already built. And the free ones, like I say, they do tend to hit the ceiling quite quickly in terms of what you can do with the design. So by all means, go and look like that. But what I tend to find as well is that what I tend to do is I go off and look at who made the theme. And I would look at VW themes. I believe that if I looked at them, you'd probably be able to see their sales stats that they hadn't sold too many of this theme, which can get you into trouble as well, in that the themes can, if just looking at this in another tab, I'll try to show you that in a minute. What I can see is these themes, this theme, the premium version of it, which I was showing you a free version of it just then. They tend to do that to you. They tend to have a free version of it that is quite limited. It's called a freemium model, and it maybe give you like 10 or 20% of the functionality of a theme, the premium version of their theme. So you'll get frustrated after a while, and they'll try to sell you the premium version of that theme inside it. This one, it looks like this particular one actually goes up to $99 when you buy the premium version of it. But having said that as well, just looking at the stats in it, it looks like it's only been sold a few hundred times, which in my experience, when you buy themes that have only been sold a few hundred or a few thousand times, they tend to get discontinued after a while, which tends to make them vulnerable, more frustrating for you to keep them up to date. And yeah, they can become, like I said, they can become vulnerable, which means that they can get hacked after a while if the theme developer themselves doesn't keep it up to date. So the Salient one I mentioned a minute ago, that I'm going to try to show you now, has been sold over, I think it's over 107,000 times in 8 years. So again, the reason I choose this theme over and over again is that it's reliable. It's pretty cheap to buy. It comes with something called the WP Bakery Page Builder, or I think it's called that, yeah, WP Bakery Page Builder, which is also, we'll get onto in a moment, but that's a way for you to break free of the dull and boring WordPress layouts in the first place. So it's just got like endless options inside this. There's templates. If you wanted to use the templates, there's loads of templates inside here that can help you to begin with, but it also allows you to build your own templates that can then save you a lot of time and make your design very consistent as well. So again, if you can see, I don't know if you can see my screen, but the sales on it now are over 107,000. There's 31,000 comments on the theme. It was last updated within 2 months, and it was created back in 2013. So for me, it's been the most reliable theme and the best investment for me as a developer that I've found over that time, because the community, as it's been sold so many times, the community demands updates all the time. It demands that when there's something new and flashy that comes out in website development world, that they tend to add it into the website theme itself. And if I come back, so by the way, you can buy this at somewhere called themeforest.net. That is where you basically buy all of the best and most popular WordPress themes. There's other ones out there called Divi, which comes with something called Elementor as well. So Divi and Elementor are like this, like the alternative version of Salient and WP Bakery. But WP Bakery is a page builder that will work with every other theme as well. So without trying to confuse you and get too complicated with it, you don't need a page builder with a fancy theme, but having them together will just make your life a lot easier and allow you to work very quickly and very efficiently and make a very, very slick website very, very quickly. So it's sort of what underlies inside Wix. When you buy a Wix site, for example, it has this page builder thing inside it. That's all the drag and drop elements, and allows you to do different columns and rows and lay your pages out nicely and add in elements of videos and audio players and pictures and galleries and all that kind of stuff. So when you use these two tools together, it can be very, very powerful. And I think, yeah, it only really costs like $60 as a one-off payment. That's not an annual payment. So once you've bought that, you can basically use it across different themes, different sites, I'm saying, that you have, and you then have like two very, very powerful tools, and that is basically my secret weapon in every site I've built in the last 8 years, like I said. So it's so whenever people come to me, I always reveal that as my secret. And again, I'm not particularly trying to push you another theme. It's just that that's my experience over 11 years, that if you have something like that, it's just going to make your life a lot easier than trying to relearn a different theme every time that you want to build a different website. You know the tools much quicker. You're always going to know how to change the different elements on your site and all that stuff very, very quickly. You may go off and find something you think is better than Salient, but if you look at the stats, there's not many themes that have been sold many more times than 107,000 times in WordPress world. That's a lot, because there's so many free ones out there. People tend to stick with those, and like I say, they just tend to get stuck a little bit more with the design. The control panel options are less. The page building options are fewer, and that's why often people just have to go off and find a developer to code different things to stop showing little elements on the site, or to change colors, or to change layouts and all that kind of stuff as well. So you have a couple of tools like this in your arsenal, you're just going to basically make your life a lot easier, and you can kind of get to the level of a pro a lot quicker. So again, that's my secret weapon. All right, so if we come back out of that now, what I'll do is I'll share the dashboard again of WordPress and come back over there. So I won't install that theme because that will go over the top of my beautiful website I've already built using Salient. So if I now show you, so yeah, like I said, you go through the themes here, and there's loads of free ones, but do your research on who built it, how many times it's been downloaded, and just compare it to something like Salient or Divi, or I think in my guide there's a few other ones I mention as well that can be popular too. But yeah, once you found one, or if you choose Salient, for example, what you then got with Salient is a huge control panel of options that basically allows you to build a website without pretty much being a coder or knowing any of that stuff. If you know it on top of being able to do this stuff, that becomes very dangerous. You can add CSS in there, which is like the styling language of coders. It's actually the sister language of HTML. So a lot of your pages will be built in HTML, even though you're not realizing that you're doing that. But if you want to go further with that, every WordPress site, and actually pretty much every website, also has something called a style sheet. A style sheet uses something called CSS, which means cascading style sheets. And actually, a lot of these options are changing your style sheet just using on-offs and options and things like that in there. But you can go further into it as well and add your own customizations using CSS here. So again, if you know all 3 or 4 of those things, you can be very, very dangerous. And you can see here I've made loads of different changes here, but you have to know, once you've done these things, how to change them back, how to undo them, all that kind of stuff too. So majority of you in here, I'm sure, are not going to want to try to code as well. So again, this is why I'm trying to show you a theme that's just going to give you so many different options and allow you to pull together a really beautiful website really quickly. So you can use things like accent colors in here. You can move the colors around through here, but if you know your branding hex codes, you can very quickly pull together a site that will use your color scheme very, very quickly. You can change typography very, very easily inside here. So it splits out the typography into all sorts of sections that allows you to change your navigation font, your body fonts, all of those things. And what it does is it has what's called the web safe fonts, which are things like Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman, but it also hooks into the Google Fonts library, which is free to use. They're very safe to use. which is often a contentious thing as well. Is I've just built a newsletter for a interior design company, and they had a custom font that they had built. But in the end, what we decided to do was not use that custom font, because unless the custom font is on that person's device, say their iPhone or their iMac, their computer, often it gets replaced with a default font like Arial or Calibri or one of those. So if you go off to Google Fonts, which you can see is a huge, extensive library of free fonts that the Google gods have put together, you'll see that they're basically all inside here as well. So you can just change different parts in here. I'm using a font for my navigation called Questrial. You can change the font sizes, the line heights very easily. You can change the weights, which is whether that's bold, italic, all of those things. You can transform the text to uppercase, all that kind of stuff very, very easily. I can then go off into the general typography and kind of change my body and my headings as well, which are like the headings you see on the page. They go in different sizes through here, so you can also change the sizes and all that kind of stuff through there if you want. You can then, in Salient, you can add your logo in very, very easily. You can change the height of the logo and the mobile height. You can have a specific mobile logo if you want. You can change the color scheme for the header very, very easily, and there's so many different options to that. And that also handles the mobile menu that goes off to the side often. Yeah, and without getting too into it, there's just so many different things you can do here. If you see here, when I said this theme is my secret weapon, so what often people get stuck on is they say, I want my logo to be over to the left or to the middle, or I want it to be a left header down here. Salient is great at handling all different types of layouts here. So again, without pushing one particular theme, I just love this theme personally, because I've found it to be very slick and very easy to use and very adaptable. And whenever a client comes to me and says, can you build me this type of website, I know I can do it in this setup here as well. They say they want a secondary header bar which would sit above the top. There's options for all that stuff. There's options to change the footer. So if I want different columns down in the footer, I can change them very easily. And like I said, it can be a bit like a box of Lego, or like a transformer if you want. You can very quickly come into the different settings inside here and change those layouts. And particularly the themes that you don't have to pay for, you're not going to get those kind of options very easily. You're going to have to code things in, and you're going to have to change them, and they can be very, very frustrating, and you can waste a lot of time on. But something like this, you can just change all of the different aspects and the layouts and all that kind of stuff very, very easily. You can change your blog layouts very easily. There's masonry layouts, which is like a brickwork all together of different blocks, which I think you saw on the Pavan site. You can just have a standard blog that's just one post after the other. There's just loads of different options. There's animation options. You can hook into social media very easily through here, and it's got nice icons that display up in the header or the footer or wherever you want them to be, basically. And there's plenty of options down here as well. Okay, so that's basically this sort of overall. Salient is basically the overall way that you're going to style your website. But once you get into the different pages that you create, you can then go further with the other thing I said that it comes with, which is called the Visual Composer or WP Bakery thing. So if you went into one of your pages, and this is the page manager, you can see I had 75 pages on this particular website. Again, that's a nice point about WordPress, is that there's no upper limit of the pages that you have. You might ask, why would I have 75 pages on a web design website? It's because I believe the more content you have, the more searchable you are, and the more lucky that you can get on the search engines. We might come on to that in a minute, but I have secret pages that aren't up in my menu. I don't have 75 pages up in my top bar, but there's other ways that people can find me through Google. If they were searching for a web designer outside of London, I'm still going to be found. I get found for someone asking for a WordPress trainer in Bristol quite often, and they say, "Can you, whereabouts are you based in Bristol?" I say to them, I'm not based in Bristol, I'm based in London, but thank you for finding me. I cast my net out far, and I went fishing for you because I knew that if I didn't put a page out in Bristol for you, then the local designer in Bristol would find you instead. So whatever you do in terms of services, that's quite a good way to just keep building up your content and building up what's called landing pages. So let's say you do custom sewing designs. You can do geographical based pages that say that you do that in Bath, in Bristol, in Manchester, in Liverpool, but wherever you're based, you want to keep pushing your content further and further out. And from Google's perspective as well, Google doesn't really care about you having a few pretty pictures on your website. It can't really read those. What it really is interested in is a lot of text, which again becomes a contentious thing with a lot of my clients. They say, well, I don't really want to have a lot of words on my website. I want it just to be quite pretty and modern and just have images. But like I said, you don't have to have every single page up in the top menu bar. They can all be hidden in the background. And but you still, basically, if you want to please, you've got two masters to please, I suppose. You've got when visitors come, you don't want to overbear them with all of your text in a big wall. You want to be able to basically please people from a visual aspect and from a UX or user experience manner. So not overcomplicating your designs and your pages, but also having something meaty that Google can get its teeth into, which is basically the text and the content inside your site. So we'll probably go further into that, but this is basically like the standard page editor that you see inside WordPress. You see that you can add a page title. Once you add a page title, it basically follows something called a permalink. So the reason it's saying there that it's 20822, that's like an old way of doing the page numbers. But if I said this was Web Design Liverpool, as soon as I added that in, the permalink would then follow that as well. It would say my website address, and then with dashes in between the words, it would say Website Design Liverpool, for example. So then after that, what you've got is what's called the Wysiwyg Editor. So that means what you see is what you get. These editors have been around for a long, long time. They're very similar to what you see inside Word or one of those pages on your Mac. You can type in heading, subtext, whatever you're going to type into this. And with simple editing tools you see up here, you can change that, for example, up to your heading, and that can be your text as you go on. You can add in, you can basically just style things through using bold, italicing. You've obviously got different sort of alignments and all that kind of stuff. You can link through your different pages that you've got inside your website. This will search through your pages, or you can just drop in a link from, let's say, up here. You wanted to link to another page, you could do that too. You can change the text color if you really want to. You can basically you can add in a picture, which could go through something called the media library. The media library is like the central part where all of your PDF documents and your pictures of dogs, like I've got here, go through. These are mostly just for purposes of showing people how to upload an image. So let's say we chose one of these images, for example. Without getting too technical as well, this is the way Google reads images. So you can put in the alt text and description through there, and then you can do your alignments as well, anything like that. So you can insert that into a page. You can do galleries through the same part here as well. But having said that, this this editor becomes a little bit simple. It allows you to like resize your images and stuff as well. This editor becomes a little bit simple because what I've described here is a one window kind of way to put your pages together. So that does become limited quite quickly. And when WordPress started, I think it was around 15 years ago, up until probably about 5 years ago, you'd have to, if you wanted different columns on your pages, you'd have to code it all with HTML and CSS and tables. Tables Google doesn't particularly like because it can't get into the content. So what we can do these days is we can use that page builder that comes either with your theme that you bought. So if you bought Salient, it comes with the WP Bakery page builder, or Visual Composer, sometimes it's called. If you use Divi, it comes with a page builder called Elementor. There's other ones called Beaver Builder. There's quite a few out there, but again, do your research on which ones are most popular and most flexible. Probably Visual Composer will come out top. I believe Elementor will probably come a very close second. But I use both of them quite a lot. But out of choice, I always use Visual Composer because I find it the quickest and easiest to work with. They have two ways of working through there, which is a back-end editor and a front-end editor. The difference between those is the back-end editor just allows you to build the columns, the rows, the elements in this system here that you see here. The front-end editor would basically load the website up as a visitor, and then you can do it all visually. I personally find it a little bit more complicated and it takes longer to put the page together, but sometimes clients quite like that because they can see very, very quickly how it gets built. But there's nothing stopping you from using the back-end editor, which is quicker, and then just going off and loading the page in another tab, like it would just open up in the tab next to it just now if I click that link, and then just going off and seeing what the page would look like. So if I basically then press that backend editor, what it does is it turns on the WP Bakery page builder and it takes over that Wysiwyg builder. It then allows me to use something called rows, elements, and columns in order of rows, columns, and elements, basically. So what I've got here is a row with one column and one element in it so far. But I can move these around. I can change my columns by hovering over this. So if I wanted it to split into 2 columns now, I could do that. If I wanted it to split into 3 columns, I can do that very easily. If I want to go into this column and add something else, it will then load up the WP Bakery or Visual Composer elements menu, which you can see here on the page itself, and every individual page can do this. It then allows you to add sliders, blog elements, buttons, images, image galleries, team member things, maps, sliders, text block. So the text block is just actually the Wysiwyg editor, but it's my favorite element as well because you can basically add pictures, videos, headings, galleries, all of that stuff into individual blocks. For me, it's the quickest way of working than getting too crazy with all of these things. It's sometimes like looking at being a kid in a sweet shop and seeing all the different things and wanting them all. But they can be a bit of a waste of time, some of these ones. So I tend to, as a developer tip, I tend to stick with the text block more than anything else. There's also dividers that you can use inside here. So what also was annoying before these page builders came out is it was always difficult to space things apart, and using dividers, you can basically just add in small separations between the elements you've got inside here. This can be very extended as well by all of these extra ones. There's other plugins, which we'll cover very quickly in a minute, can kind of come into this too. So if I want to add any of my WooCommerce things inside here, I'll bring that in here in a moment, but I can basically add in all my shop elements too. So if I don't think I've got it installed, that's why I can't see it, but if you had, if you wanted to start a shop, I'll tell you about that in a minute. You would use a plugin called WooCommerce, which is the probably the most popular shop software that's free to install and add into WordPress. So then if I wanted to set up different products or anything like that, I can very easily use my layout tool here or my visual composer to basically hook that into my shop things and all that kind of stuff as well. So let's just, for example, add let's add another text block into there. Then you can see what it does is it opens up a text block that is, this is here. And if I want to change the text inside it, and then do that, I can still add my media in there. I've got design options into the box itself. So if I want to do borders around the boxes or backgrounds or a background picture, all of this stuff, it opens up now, and you can get very nice designs very quickly. You can also very quickly with something like this as well, is you can copy blocks that you've built, and then you can use this thing to then drag them over into different areas of the site too. And so then if you basically wanted 3 things that were almost the same but not exactly the same, that may be the quickest way and the most consistent way for you to just change the heading on that one, for example, to heading 2, and change the picture out to something different. So it can become very quick to work using something like this. I'll just do that quickly on the 3rd one as well. To show you, if I wanted to knock out the picture in that one, for example, I could then go in and add that, for example. And if I save the changes in a second, you'll see that I think I went too quickly on that. It would basically load up the other picture there, and then you can save it, and then you'd have 3 blocks. If you then want to add something underneath that, you can then add another text block or a slider or anything you want really as you go down the page. But what I'm sort of just trying to show you quickly is that a layout is starting to come together for this page. So at the top of this page, we'd have our header through the theme, our menu bar, our logo, all that stuff, and then everything underneath that and above the footer will be on this page builder here. So it would start with these 3 columns, and then it would have a full width column underneath it. Okay, let's say that I then want to change the layout quickly, and I'm not particularly happy with the 3 things being up there. I can then drag that up to here, and I can keep changing things around. I could move something out of that into this block. I can just move things around very, very quickly. I might then want to change that to 2 columns. It becomes incredibly quick to create layouts and to try different things out. And then what I can do, once I'm happy and I've got a consistent layout, what I can then do is say, I can click my templates at the top and I can save it as a template. I could say this is my services page, and I can then, when I want to go onto another page to create that, I can then just load up the Visual Composer backend editor. It's saying classic mode now to switch back to the classic mode, but it's said backend editor at the beginning. So you turn on the backend editor, you click my templates, you can just then load up the template you've created on this page, and you've got exactly the same layout that you've just created on that page, which again, it's just going to keep your design consistent, slick, fast, and save you a lot of time. So I think hopefully you find that useful. There's options at the top of each column and at the top of each row as well. So if you want to have like a picture behind the entire row or a color behind it, you can do that as well by pressing background color. You can see there's almost endless options with this. So maybe just start simply with it and just try to go through some of the options as well and not get too carried away. But there's another option here that you could, if you're not that confident in building your own template from start, although having said that, I'll warn you that all my clients using this Salient template, they tend to load those templates, think they look really fancy and beautiful, and they try to shove their content in, and then they get frustrated and knock the whole thing out, and they say, yeah, you were right, I should have just built my own template from the start, which is something you may just want to experiment with anyway and try that. But you can see inside the Salient Templates part, Salient, the theme themselves, they've built 254 templates for you to play with, that you can just get started with quickly, which means you can do exactly what I just basically said. You can load up one of their templates, and then you can knock out the pictures and the contents and change the icons and all that kind of stuff, so that you, if you want to go down that route, it can build like pages really beautifully for you without having to do it from the beginning. But like I say, it can become frustrating as well. So just experiment with the two different types, and they've split them off into different types of templates for you as well. So you can just experiment with those. So hopefully that was interesting. And I'll come off that page next, and then what I'll show you is probably just going to show you a few other resources in a moment as well. You know what? I think what I'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen now, and I know we've probably gone on for about an hour already. So I'm probably actually going to ask Hubert if he wants to lead some questions at this point.
Yeah, for sure. We have roughly like 20 questions, but I don't think we can go through all of them. So I'll try to like go through the key ones and see what people have said. We have CD who said, I have a yellow. Oh, no, that's fine. She just said she has a yellow skin on him. Is there a way to create a WordPress page with a password so only permitted people can view your website? I want to put my portfolio online, but many people are confidential. Many projects are confidential. That's what she said.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I can see the question right there. So there's actually several levels to this. In the WordPress page builder, maybe I can bring that page up again in a second. The easiest way to do it is you can password protect individual pages. So I think I'll just have to share my screen for a quick second again. Bear with me a second. Yeah, there's several levels. You can basically password protect your entire site. Like I showed you on the Pavan site, there was like a VIP members area to his site. So he had to use something called, I think it's MemberPress is a plugin that he used. There's other plugins that you can create a complete locked off social area called BuddyPress, which is like an out of the box social network. So sometimes that can work as well. But the simplest way to do it is to build individually password protected pages. So if you go to the visibility part, I think you can see my screen here. In the publish section of each page, there's a visibility public. If you edit that, you can either do public, you can do private, which means that someone would have to basically have a login to your entire website, which you can do. Or you can just individually lock off a page, which means that an outside viewer can come to it, but they'd have to have a password to be able to get onto that page. So if you're asking from a perspective of, I'm a photographer and I have, let's say, a gallery that I want to just share with one particular client, you can make a page for them. Let's say it's John's wedding gallery. And then when they get to that page, no one else can get into that page without having the password, if that makes sense. So like that. So that's probably a very obvious password, but yeah, that's basically the way to do it. And then you can lock it off and it becomes a password protected page. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Another question is by Cheryl, who said, "Do I need to start hosting before website is built?"
Yes and no. It becomes a lot easier down the road to have your hosting first, because if you build it offline first, you then have to use probably something called FTP, which is File Transfer Protocol. And sitting underneath a WordPress site, there's also something called a MySQL database. So if you're technically minded, you can download some software called XAMPP, which I mentioned very quickly. It's XAMPP. You basically create a false website server on your own computer, but it gets quite complicated. So unless you're quite technically minded, most of my clients tend to want to avoid that, and they like to just start by buying the cheap hosting to start with, like I mentioned at the beginning. That becomes very, very easy for you then to launch the site when you're ready. However, I think I also mentioned there is, if you just want to just test this and dip your toe in the water, I think you can get a free WordPress.com account. But like I was trying to explain at the beginning, there is a ceiling to using WordPress.com to using the hosted WordPress as well. So just depends on the route you want to go. But yeah, essentially you can do it without buying hosting. Yes. You can change the name later, but again, it becomes a bit more of a technical challenge if you choose one name and then decide to choose another one later. It means that you have to change every single link on your website, which can be done through a script, basically. So this is where someone like TSO Host or GoDaddy can be quite helpful. So if you buy hosting through them and you decide to change your domain name after you've done it, it's not impossible to do, but it's better if you choose the correct domain name first. It becomes less of a technical challenge for you. But yeah, you can either use TSO or GoDaddy or wherever you host with to help you change the name. They can take a little while as well, which is why often developers get involved in the middle of that. But there is like a script out there that can basically change your website name. But you're basically going to have to go through the route of downloading all of your files through FTP, downloading your database, starting a new website, and then doing the opposite process as well. So if unless you want to go down that technical route and you're comfortable and happy with that, it's probably best to choose the right domain name in the first place and just have a think about that.
Yep. Rach asks, can you transfer sites from Wix, Weebly, Squarespace to WordPress later?
You can, but there's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no export tool that will allow you to export all of your pages out of one of those builders into WordPress. There is a way to easily transfer a WordPress site into another WordPress site or a blogger.com site or something like that. But it's not impossible either. It's a question I get a lot, but basically what you'd have to do is just individually copy the content out of each page of your Wix site, for example, and upload individually onto your WordPress site.
Okay, cool. Cheryl asked, I think which you answered already, is charge for premium version of a theme a one-off charge or annual fee? But
it depends on the theme you buy, actually. So it is a good question. So Salient is a one-off charge, but other themes charge you an annual fee as well. So you've got to watch out for that.
Yeah. Rachel asked, what website would you recommend for blogging?
If you just want to blog and nothing else, you can start with WordPress.com, which I said is like the simple version of WordPress. But professional bloggers, they tend to also have a hosted or WordPress.org site, which is exactly the same method as we've been describing there. So there's no real difference between a blog and a website. It's just what you're using in the back end, basically. So it's that most websites also have a blog and a shop and all that kind of stuff as well. But there's nothing stopping you from using WordPress just to have a blog.
Okay, cool. Another question from the Q&A was, can I put events calendar in a WordPress website?
Yeah, you absolutely can. I think there's quite a few plugins, which I don't think we got too far into, but plugins is, we described having a WordPress installation, and then we described having a theme on top of that, and described building pages. But a plugin is basically it's basically just a way to get extra functionality that you didn't have inside your WordPress installation in the first place. So let's say you wanted to build a shop, you'd need a plugin called WooCommerce to build the shop part of it. If you wanted to build an events calendar, you might need something called like the Tribe Calendar. So that's a plugin I think has a free version, but it also has a premium version. I think there's another one called the Events Calendar Pro. So again, some of the plugins are free. The free ones tend to sometimes not be so good, and there tends to be premium plugins out there as well. But it's the same methodology that you've got to check out how many times those plugins have been downloaded, whether they've been updated recently, whether they're compatible WordPress, and how much they're going to cost you as well, whether there's an annual charge for it or not. But yeah, there's lots of events calendars out there. And there's ones that also hook into the WooCommerce payment system as well. So yeah, there's several options there.
Winnie asked, between Visual Composer and VP Bakery, which is your preferred page builder?
They're actually the same plugin. They just changed the name of it at one point just to confuse you.
Cool. And Katrina asked, thank you for your answer to my earlier question, which is the most safest way to create a confidential page, password protected or private with a login. I'm worried about hackers hacking into confidential websites.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mean, if you're going to password protect your pages, obviously use something more secure than password 123 or John's password page, or you can use password generators. But I mean, if you just tap on your keyboard a few times, you'll probably end up with a really difficult to hack password. And further to that, what you want to be doing to stop hackers is to update your WordPress software on a regular basis. I tend to advise my clients to do it at least once a month. Every time you log into WordPress, it will tell you at the top of the screen that there's a new version of WordPress available. Don't be scared to do it. The more often that you update your software, the less likely it is to have conflicts, to crash, and for hackers to come into WordPress. It's the same with the plugins that I was just explaining then. Those plugins that you have as well, they also need to be updated. And it's a good idea not to have plugins that are deactive or not being used on the site. So I only have basically just a few plugins as possible, and to keep those updated. And just one further point is probably to have the Ssl certificate that we talked about, which is the padlock that you can buy through your website hosting. And also just to have a good hosting company in the first place. I know it can be very tempting to go off and buy cheaphosting.com or HostGator or something like that. No disrespect if anyone has that, but like the cheaper hosting things, they do tend to get you hacked more often, because those hosting companies don't tend to really care about your website. They tend to just want to have as many people buying their hosting as possible, and they don't tend to up their security as the hackers get more clever as well. So nothing to worry about as long as you're doing all of those things. But yeah, I mean, it is a part of having a website. Is to always be one step ahead of the game and always be keeping your stuff safe. So it's just like having a secure lock on your front door and not leave. And when you log out of your website at the end, that's always a good idea as well. I see endlessly clients that they don't log out of their website. I describe it the same as like a bank. You don't tend to log out, go off your bank screen without logging out of it. You don't tend to go out of your front door without locking the door behind you, unless maybe you live in Canada. Okay, hopefully that answers the question.
For sure. Rachel asked, could we also use WordPress to showcase your portfolio artwork?
Yeah, absolutely. You could do that in a blog. If you use Salient, it has a section in there that's just for portfolios, so it becomes really easy to display that. There's templates inside there as well that make that easy. Essentially, that's just also using the layout with the Visual Composer I was showing you. That would allow you to build your own portfolio layout and save that as a template to make it consistent across every portfolio page that you're making too. Yeah, so definitely.
And another question was, what are the best hosting platforms?
Yeah, like I said, if you want to start simply, WordPress.com is very good, but once you will hit the ceiling very quickly with it, and then they do offer you a premium version of the hosting, but I've had to rescue a few clients from paying around £450 a year for their full hosting package, which is incredibly expensive for website hosting and Ssl certificate and domain. So I think as I showed you a few times, and the guide I'm happy to send you guys out as well. Just ask me at the end, and I can send you all that out. Yeah, TSO host is my favorite. From basically doing this for 11 years, I've basically used all of the big hosting companies, and most of them have let me down apart from TSO host. So I'm not particularly affiliated to any of them or trying to push you on, but GoDaddy is probably the biggest. It's probably the most well known, but I did say at the beginning as well, they've let me down several times recently and made my clients pay for additional support, which I think is kind of wrong for a hosting company to do. It's kind of their job to sell you the hosting, and if something goes wrong with the hosting itself or the domain, they should do that as part of your standard package, which you would get inside TSO host. And then being based in the UK, if you're UK based, is very good. But there will be other ones that are based in the States if you're out there, or in the country that you're in as well. So yeah, do your research, but there's nothing stopping you from using TSO host if you're in one of those other countries as well. They do have 24-hour support. But yeah, GoDaddy is probably the most popular, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best either.
Is WordPress free to use, or do you need to pay? Rachel asked as well.
It is free. The software itself is free. So you just basically need to pay for your hosting and your domain. And like I said, you can use WordPress.com for free, and there is a free level, but it puts your domain name plus WordPress.com at the end of it initially. If you're doing that free, you then have to basically buy the domain name off them to take that part out, which starts getting a bit costly at WordPress.com itself.
How much do you think, on average, a freelancer should invest in building a good site?
Time is probably the best investment you can put into it. But just from a cost level, like I said, you need a domain, which should cost you less than £10 a year, or probably $15. The hosting probably can cost you less than £50 a year, which maybe is like $75. Ssl certificate, you don't have to have it, but Google tends to prefer that you have it. It favors websites that have HTTPS or the padlock up in it, and you can block traffic if you don't. So there is a free version, something called Let's Encrypt that you can get. That's a free SSL certificate, but it becomes a bit more of a management tool. It only lasts 90 days, a Let's Encrypt certificate. You can buy a premium certificate through somewhere like TSO host or through GoDaddy for, I think it's less than £50 a year. It's £50 a year. And then the theme, like I said, you can have a free one as well, but it's a one-off investment to buy Salient and Visual Composer together for, I think it's $60. So all in all, not much really. The only other investment you may want to go for is some premium plugins. Like I say, if you really wanted to have a fancy events calendar or something like that, you may have to buy a premium plugin. They don't tend to really cost too much money though. If you go to somewhere called Code Canyon, that's owned by the same people as Theme Forest. The plugins on there tend to be quite cheap, but again, you have to just weigh them up, whether they're safe to use in the first place, whether they're compatible with your WordPress, and whether they've been downloaded a lot of times. On top of that, the only other cost really would be if you guys get stuck on something and you wanted to hire a WordPress developer to help you with things. But I guess the general point of today's masterclass is that I'm trying to show you that you can kind of do most of this stuff yourself without a developer.
I think we have time for like 2 more questions, right? Muriel kept asking, please tell us more about hidden pages. Is it available on WordPress as well? I think him or her wanted to know more on the passwords, I think, or something like that.
I think they may be talking about the landing pages that I was talking about. But so if it's hidden pages, like I said, you can maybe I'll answer this in 2 parts. If it's hidden pages, you can use something like MemberPress to lock off your website. You can just individually password protect your pages up in that publish section of each page that I showed you. But if it's the latter, I think what they're talking about is what I was talking about, hidden pages, or what I call landing pages. So it's what I was describing in that I had 75 pages on that particular WordPress site, where I probably only showed 10 pages up in my menu bar, but I had a lot of other pages that were secret pages, or what I call landing pages, that are also published. And often the question I get is, but where do they sit? They still sit on my website. And if you Google, let's say if you Googled WordPress training in Bristol or in Bath or in wherever, like you're going to find that page through Google search, and you'll be taken through a back door through Google onto that page, and it will say web design in Bath, for example. But also, it's not going to be in the menu bar. So it's not that you have to display all those pages. You can keep going and keep going and keep going with all of these pages. It's not just search. You can do it in all sorts of stuff. You can basically rewrite your pages in different ways. Google, by the way, doesn't like you re-replicating your content over and over again. So if you're going to make hidden pages, you can't basically have the same page over and over again and just change the title to Liverpool, to Manchester, to Scotland, whatever. You have to individually rewrite the content, or you can end up damaging your reputation on Google and your search engine results too. So I think that's what she's saying is, what does that mean? That's basically, yeah, it's landing pages. Is you can just keep publishing pages, but you just don't add them into your menu. They're called landing pages.
Okay, cool. Okay, last question. I have like a few more, but last question is, I'm a graphic designer. Should I blog regularly to increase my SEO?
Should you? Yeah, you should. I think blogging is probably one of the best ways to increase the content of your site and to show Google that you're writing new content on a regular basis. Basically, Google, it will come back to your site more regularly the more regularly you add content to your site. So if you add a blog once a week, it shows Google that you're an active website, and that it adds something to what's called your sitemap. Every website has a sitemap, and on that sitemap, it tells Google when you last edited the pages on your website. So what it comes to do is it reads your sitemap and it says, oh yeah, you edited this page 1 week ago. So then it knows now to come back more regularly, to check more regularly for new pages and more content. So yeah, absolutely, it's a very, very easy way to talk about the things you're doing in your business. As a graphic designer, you can talk about the projects that you're doing, the events you go to, the news in your industry. I tend to tell people to write a number of titles ahead of time, so they have a list of blog posts or news articles to write, and you can never really run out of things to write. Often my clients they say, "But what am I going to write about on my website? I make aluminium extrusions." That's very boring, but it's not boring if you're in that industry, and if somebody's come to your website to research and find something out, or they're coming to look for a service, the more content that you have on your site and the more regularly you write, the more chance of you coming up ahead of your competitors. Just quickly to round that off, the most successful client's website I have, he started off his website, but just as he launched it about 5 years ago, with 10,000 pages on his website. Each page had 1,000 words plus, and now he's built it to about 30,000 pages. It's called the Green Building Encyclopedia, which if you look at it, it may not be the prettiest website, but he gets an insane amount of traffic to his website, and it's all because the ethos is king, his content is king. So yeah, definitely write as much as you can. But they say the more you tell, the more you sell.
For sure. So yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone about Ben's social media and website as well. If you do have any questions or you need his support when it comes to website building, or you want him to actually build your website, reach out to him, and I'm sure he's gonna have a cool chat with you guys. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thank you for sending all your questions. If you do have any questions, send it to me or maybe Ben as well, and we'll try to kind of answer them. For anything else, this will be sent out to everyone who registered, and you'll have a copy of the video to look back on and the questions as well. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So if you just to further to Hubert's ending piece there, if you guys would like a handy guide, then please just reach out to me on Instagram through Temple Beats, or email me at ben@musicproducer.com, or just check out my WordPress No Stress website, and I will send you that handy guide. Yeah, and then that should help you to kind of like demystify some of these points of starting your website. But I'd really like to thank Wisyu and to thank Hubert for hosting today, and yeah, hopefully I'll hear from some of you guys soon. Cheers.
It was awesome. Thank you for joining us today as well. So yeah, I'll send everything out today. I mean, it's automatic, and it will include Ben's social media and website, etc. So you can reach out to them from the link. I think it will be sent out in 1 hour's time, as it's automated. So you'll receive an email with everything intact as well. All right. Thank you for coming and joining it, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.